Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordy and Glory video. In today's episode, we shall be casting our ever-critical eye over the 10th edition Imperial Guard datasheets. And once more, we shall be striding confidently into the domain of Forge World. Now, I've been looking at a lot of weird and wacky Forge World vehicles recently, and let's be honest, they've all kind of been a bit rubbish. They've not been great. Less than optimal would be a polite way of putting it. And I didn't want to get over salty because I do like those vehicles, the Malcador, the Macarius, even the Carnodon. They're all very cool, and really it's a shame that they're not as good as they are. And so today I wanted to have a positive video talking about a Forge World tank that I think is genuinely good and viable. And not only that, but it gets even better because this thing is a super heavy. And if there's one thing that Guard players like, it is big old tanks. I am talking about, of course, the Stormblade. This is a rare and alternative pattern of Baneblade, which has been pretty good for a few editions now. It did work in 8th, it was more than viable in 9th, and it's great to see that it's continuing to be useful going into 10th edition. But you know what? I'm hyping you guys up. I'm getting you all excited. Let's not muck around anymore. Let's mount up, roll out, and drive right into today's episode. As is tradition, we shall start with a brief overview of what the hell the Stormblade actually is. And essentially, it's just an alternative Guard super heavy tank, similar to that of the Baneblade or the Shadow Sword or the Doomhammer. It's on a similar size chassis. It comes with a big main armament and it's got lots of supplemental firepower strapped to it as well. On the tabletop, you're going to use this thing in a very similar manner to how you would use any Guard Super Heavy. It's going to be a fire support unit that is going to bring a lot of damage dealing to the table. It's less focused on the objective game and it's more focused on winning the firefight. Interestingly, in the lore, this thing is touted as a alternative to the Shadow Sword, but as you'll see when we get into the datasheet in detail, that doesn't really pan out in reality. And this is more of a take-all-comers vehicle. In fact, rather than me just sort of telling you this, why don't I show you by going through the datasheet in detail. So to start off, we've got a movement value of 9 inches. That does put it in line with other Guard Super Heavies, but it's important to note that that is 1 inch less than the average movement value in the Guard multiple, which tends to be 10 inches. Over the course of the game, that does mean you're going to have 5 inch less movement. And when you're using a big tank like this, it can be a problem on more competitive boards. That extra inch might be what you need to get around the corner, to start moving forward in those ruin heavy boards. But hopefully it won't be too restrictive. It's just something to be aware of, that you might find this tank a bit more ponderous than even other large ones in your army like the Rogel Dawn. But it makes up for this less speed by being more durable. It has got a toughness value of 13. This makes it very resistant to even proper anti-tank firepower like las cannons, which are going to need 5s or greater to wound you. Plus it's got a 2+ armor save, which means in cover you've got a 4+ save against AP3 weapons, and 24 wounds, which is the upper end of the wound spectrum for Guard Super Heavies. You have things like the Macarius, which are light Super Heavies, and I know that's a little bit of a paradox, but they only have 20 wounds. So having 24 wounds does make this chunky, and it actually means it's got more wounds than other faction Super Heavies such as Imperial Knights, who tend to rock around with about 22. So it's a bit slower, but it is notably more durable, and it has that leadership value of 7+, what you would expect from every Guard unit in this army. Everything seems to be 7+ apart from Commissars. And it's got OC8, and OC8 is significant. It means that if you go up against other enemy vehicles and you're fighting over an objective, you'll probably out-control them. If you go against enemy elite infantry, like Terminators. You will significantly outcontrol them. So whilst their primary job isn't to do the objective game, if it's the only asset you've got available and opposite you is some sort of elite infantry or enemy vehicle, you can probably use them to sneak an objective away in a pinch. But like I said at the beginning, this thing, whilst it's durable, it's got some objective control, the main role is for it to destroy your enemies, to blast them from the table. And it certainly has the equipment to facilitate that. Coming with 2 las cannons, 2 twin heavy bolters, and a Stormblade plasma blast gun as standard, this vehicle can also take 2 heavy flamers instead of its twin heavy bolters, and it can be given a hunter killer missile, and it can be given a heavy stubber or a storm bolter, and just like your other Bane Blades and Super Heavies, it can be given an extra set of sponsons, meaning it will have 4 in total, and they can be las cannon, and they can be twin heavy bolter or twin heavy flamer sponsons. So in total, if you load this up with all of the weapons, which you should do because there's no advantage to not doing so, points values are fixed in 10th edition, this vehicle would end up with 4 las cannons, 4 twin heavy bolters or heavy flamers, although you're probably going to go for the heavy bolters as this thing is a long-range DAC weapon. So we'll say 4 las cannons, 4 twin heavy bolters, a heavy stubber, a hunter killer missile, and a Stormblade plasma blast gun. That is a hell of a lot of DACA.
Attention guardsmen, this is an announcement by the Departamento Munitorum. Element Games is an official sponsor of the Mordian Glory channel. They offer up to 20% off Warhammer 40k and 10% off Bolt Action and other game systems. Use the link down in the description to save money and support the channel. Anyone not using the link will be referred to the local commissariat. Also, don't forget that if you use referral code TIM3921, then you will receive double store credit, saving even more money on your future purchases. That's all for now. Fallout!
Most of the weapons on this vehicle are pretty standard issue. The las cannon is strength 12, AP minus 3, d6 plus 1 damage, for example. The heavy bolters are the same as you will find on pretty much any other guard vehicle. Likewise with the stubber and the hunter killer missile. So I'm not going to focus too much on those. Where I want to really focus on is the Stormblade plasma blast gun, and I could just say that over and over again. It's such a sexy name for a weapon, and it's pretty good as well. It's a 48-inch range with blast, which is going to make it very useful against horde armies where it could get up to an extra 4 shots from the blast special rule. It's also reliable. It fires d6 plus 3 shots. Sure, that hasn't got the same volume as something like potentially a Stormlord or a Baneblade, which fires 3d6 shots, but it is reliable. Anyone who's fired something like an Oppressor Cannon on a Dawn or a Battle Cannon on a Lehman Russ will tell you there's nothing worse than rolling that big fat 1 until you remember, oh, actually, that's still 4 shots. That's still going to get the job done. I'm still going to be able to actually not waste my unit's turn of shooting. So it's got a reliable number of shots, and that's fairly in line with a lot of the other super heavy ones which have got the casemate weapon like the Shadow Sword. Well, it's got a lot more shots than the Shadow Sword, but more things like the Bane Sword and stuff like that. It's a similar number of shots to them. It then fires at ballistic skill 4+, but of course you have a Lord Solar which gives it +1 to hit, so really that's a 3+, and then it's strength 9, AP minus 2, damage 3. And that's just on the standard mode. If you supercharge this thing, yes, it does become hazardous, but it's only 3 wounds on a 24 wound model if you roll a 1, and you'll probably heal that up with the Tech Freeze engines here. So the hazardous, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. Then it goes up to strength 10, AP minus 3, and a flat 4 damage. Oh my god. That's so good, boys. Flat 3 damage is already very, very tasty. Flat 4 is just wild. You're going to one-shot pretty much any kind of infantry, even if it's like a super heavy infantry like a Custodians, you're going to one-shot that. They're not coming back from that. And it means that against a lot of vehicles, you only need to get 3 shots through and you do more than enough damage to just completely core them and just take them out. Flat damage 4 is very, very potent, and I cannot overstate that enough. Damage 3 alone is fine. It means that against a lot of infantry, you won't need to bother messing around with supercharging it. But when this thing comes up against vehicles, that flat damage 4 is going to make a big difference. Now, the main letdown from the Stormblade's Plasma Blast Gun, I would say, is the strength. The AP is fine. AP 2 is more than enough to cut through cover and chip some enemy armor off as well. It'll put people down through vulnerable saves. Guard don't really struggle with boosting AP with things like Exterminates and Fields of Fire. So the AP is fine. The number of shots is just enough. The range is okay. The damage is amazing. That's the best bit. The weakest part of this weapon is the strength, because it means it's going to struggle against the heavy armor. Anything up to and including medium armor, things that are toughness 10, that it can wound on 4s, it'll be fine against. That's not a problem. When you start getting into the heavy armor, things like your Lehman Russes and your other equivalents, wounding on 5s with the main weapon of a super heavy, it doesn't feel great. And I wouldn't deny that. I would say that is the biggest weakness of the weapon. But fortunately, this being a super heavy, it's not like it doesn't bring a lot of anti-tank to the party, because it has 4 las cannons. So in isolation, the Plasma Blast Gun might not seem like enough boom boom against heavy targets, but it will be supplemented by 4 proper anti-tank shots, which in my opinion more than justifies its anti-tank capability. It gets it over the line, and it makes this thing a pretty reliable take all comers. It's got the heavy bolter and heavy stubber Daka to shred light infantry. It's also got the Plasma Blast Gun, which allows it to threaten heavy infantry and light and medium vehicles. And then it's got just enough anti-tank firepower with those las cannons for it to be able to get into tank duels with other heavy vehicles. But wait, there's more! Because unlike so many other Forge World units, which have completely dogshit abilities, the Stormblade actually has a really good one. It's close range devastation. Each time this model makes a range attack with its Stormblade Plasma Blast Gun that targets a unit within half range, you can reroll the hit roll. That's right, this thing is literally bringing its own inbuilt full rerolls to hit, which is wildly potent. It's really good. I can't explain this anymore by just saying it's just a massive damage boost to the vehicle. It's so tasty, boys. And it's within half range, so it's not like it's within 12 inches. Within 24 inch range, this thing is going to be getting 4 rerolls to hit with its main weapon. Yes, it doesn't quite have the same volume, but those shots are going to hit much more often, which more than makes up for it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Mordian, what's the catch? This thing's got a good stat line, it's bristling with weapons, its ability is good. Surely there must be a problem with it. No, I know. It's a Forge World tank, right? So it's got the old points, it's massively overcosted, and it's been superseded by the balanced data slate and the points changes that came in there, right? Actually wrong. This thing comes in at a staggering... Like I had to check this 2 or 3 times because I didn't believe the numbers that I was seeing. It's only 415 points. That is a bargain. That is a lot of tank. That's a lot of super heavy for only 415 points. Wow. It's that points level which I think makes this unit genuinely competitive. I'm not saying you're going to win a tournament with it. I'm not saying it's suddenly you take 3 of these things and you just bulldoze your way to victory. What I'm saying is, for that points level, you can afford to put one in your list, and if it dies, your army isn't completely crippled and can't recover. It's not a massive linchpin. It's just the equivalent of taking a couple of high-end Lehman Russes. 415 points makes this thing actually viable at something like a local RTT, or maybe even a decent sized GT as well. The only issue you're going to find with this vehicle is the same you'd find with any super heavy. It's big, it's chunky, it might struggle to get around dense terrain boards. But it has the firepower, it has the endurance, and it has the price tag to make it a very attractive option and a very decent choice as your main centerpiece tank in your army. Of course, all of that is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Do you own a Stormblade? Have you used it in 10th edition? And what did you find its performance was like on the tabletop? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and, of course, subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the Call of Duty. So a massive thank you to Bon Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, August Vardy, and the Tommies. Thank you guys, your incredible support makes a huge difference and it is a big part of how I'm able to do Mordian Glory full time. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.